A while back, I saw a post on Reddit asking why fighting games weren't more popular. The poster argued that fighting games were easier to spectate and understand when you compare them with things like MOBAs or shooters. I was curious, so I decided to take a look at some numbers. I went back to 2019 tournament viewership, since 2019 was kind of the last normal year before COVID hit, so it seemed like a solid reference point. The International is the biggest annual Dota 2 tournament, and in 2019 it peaked at 1.1 million concurrent viewers on Twitch. For comparison, at EVO 2019, Street Fighter V peaked at 182,000 concurrent viewers. But context matters. When Dota 2 achieved its 1.1 million viewers in 2019, it had around 11 million unique players per month. If people tuning in were mostly players, which I think is a safe assumption, they got about 10% of their players to watch their single biggest event of the year. It's harder to get data on something like Street Fighter V since its player base is on both PlayStation and on PC. But for comparison, when I was doing research for making this video, there were 400,000 users on Steam playing Dota 2, while there were just about 1,500 Street Fighter V PC players at that same time. So looking at the raw numbers, Dota 2 destroys Street Fighter V in terms of numbers of players. But while Dota 2 struggles to get a tenth of their players to watch their premier tournament, Street Fighter V has a bunch of people watching the game who don't even play it. When it comes to spectating, fighting games reach outside their player base. And I think this tracks. The most famous moment in competitive Dota 2 is known as the play. And the top comment on this YouTube clip of the play is somebody explaining what the hell happened. On the other hand, while Street Fighter 3 was a commercial flop, tens of millions of people have seen EVO Moment 37. Even with zero background knowledge, it's impossible to watch this and not get hype. Fighting games punch above their weight and have huge potential, so what's going on here? Fighting games are spectator-friendly. They're a one-on-one fight where the two players and all the spectators see the exact same thing. This is a lot different from MOBAs or FPS, where it's impossible to show everything that's happening all at once. However, 1v1 games can be scary. You can never be carried to victory, and you can only really blame yourself when you lose. Team-based games can attract people for lots of different reasons. Aside from the competitive aspect, it's a social activity where you can play co-op with your friends. Playing fighting games, on the other hand, can feel more like a lonely journey of personal mastery, which isn't necessarily what everybody's looking for. Certain intrinsic aspects of the fighting game genre might fundamentally limit its popularity in certain ways. But fighting game developers have also made a bunch of unforced errors and refused to evolve, which has made it really tough to gauge the genre's true potential. We only recently finally overcame one of these unforced errors, with nearly all fighting game developers switching from garbage delay-based netcode to superior rollback netcode. It took a decade and a half, but better late than never. So what big hurdles are still out there? The first one is all of the online functionality outside of the actual matches. I think no game highlights this better than Guilty Gear Strive. Guilty Gear Strive has great netcode, so when you're in a match, it is fantastic. However, everything else about the online experience is varying degrees of terrible. For months after launch, it took multiple minutes just to get to the main menu. Once you're finally in the game, you can either waddle around the lobby and try to find somebody to play, or you can wait around and hope somebody shows up. The game changes player ranks and forces players to go to a different floor in the middle of the set sometimes, and that new floor that you got promoted to might literally be empty. After booting up a fighting game, if I want to, I should be able to hit a single button and be in a match within a minute or so. If I have an hour to play, I should be able to spend a majority of that hour in actual matches. This also highlights another major misstep. In fighting games, the default online mode has traditionally been playing ranked matches. 1v1 games are already demanding and mentally taxing. Ranked being the default way to play a fighting game online makes this 100 times worse. Compare this with other competitive genres where the big play button puts you into an unranked mode where your win-loss ratio is hidden, nothing is on the line, and win or lose, you're making progress toward unlocking a goofy hat for your character. Another remaining hurdle, and possibly the biggest one, is the business model. Fighting games have largely stuck with traditional retail game pricing, launching a $60 base game and then selling you annual season passes for DLC characters. Meanwhile, competitive online games have largely moved to a free-to-play model. This has been the case for a while, with League of Legends launching back in 2009. It's understandable that the developers have been hesitant to move in this direction. There's a massive potential upside in terms of reach and financial success, but this comes with potential downside. A failed free-to-play title could financially tank a company. Also, I don't necessarily trust big fighting game developers to do this right. Well-implemented free-to-play can be great, but free-to-play can also be an awful exploitative business model.
Some of you will probably be slightly shocked by all the tricks I have listed here, but I'll leave the morality of it out of the talk. We can discuss it if we have time later.
There have been a few weak attempts, but large fighting game developers have mostly avoided taking the risk on free-to-play so far. But at a certain point, not taking a risk is its own risk. If you don't do it, someone else will. It might be Project L or it might be something else, but someone will eventually take that gamble and win, and they're going to eat everybody else's lunch. You might be wondering why I care about any of this. It's honestly, at least partially, a selfish thing. I just want to be able to play a fighting game where at any time of the day I can jump online and spend vast majority of my time in actual matches with similarly skilled opponents for as long as I feel like playing. Ideally, this would be true for players of all skill levels. Instead, people give games an honest try and end up posting how, after months of 15% or less win rate, Strive finally broke me. Fighting games are an amazing thing, and I just want more people to be able to enjoy them. Sooner or later, we will see a big budget fighting game that checks all of these boxes from day one. Doing these things doesn't guarantee success, but eventually somebody will make it work, and then we'll be able to see the true reach of the fighting game genre. I'm pretty sure that some people are going to disagree with a lot of what's in this video. But regardless, I think it's an interesting topic to discuss. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.